Welcome to southern Thailand, Dr. Bingru Huang.
Thank you, Micah. It's very nice to be here with you.
It sure is. You are an expert on heat stress physiology of grasses, aren't you? Is that one of your specialties?
That's my research focus area, one of the areas I focus on.
Well, it's pretty hot here. Should we go look at some grass and see how it grows in Thailand?
Yes, great. Let's go.
Okay. What are you doing here, Dr. Huang?
Thank you, Micah. So I'm here playing golf with Micah. My first trip to Thailand. We enjoy a very nice round of short course golf play today.
And only golf?
No, I'm working too. So we're also checking on grass, the different conditions on the golf course. So I'm here actually for another conference called Biostimulants Conference that mainly talk about the scientific new discoveries and also marketing and regulations for biostimulants you use in agriculture and also in turf grass management.
In New Jersey or in New York, bent grass can grow through the summer. We can have bent grass on greens. But here in Thailand, we don't have bent grass. We have warm season grasses. And I'd like to ask you, what is it that makes bent grass not be a choice that we could use here in Thailand on putting greens?
Bent grass is, we call it cool season grasses. That requires much lower temperature, typically the optimal temperature around 75. So when the temperature exceeds 95 degrees, that grass doesn't grow well. But Bermuda grass, zoysia grass, or warm season grasses requires much higher temperature. That's why in this area, the temperature seems like summertime is over 90 degrees most of the time, I think. So that really is more suitable for warm season grasses, not for cool season grass, like creeping bent grass.
And so for creeping bent grass, if we would plant it here, is it that the photosynthesis is less efficient? What is it that makes the bent grass just not thrive?
That's the question is the photosynthesis, that's correct. So for cool season grass like creeping bent grass, that doesn't grow well mainly because the temperature requirements for photosynthesis is much lower. So they consider like a photosynthesis efficiency is really decreased as the temperature increases. So the photosynthesis is critical for maintaining turf, high quality turf, particularly under high temperature conditions.
So under high temperature, is it it's burning through carbohydrates faster than it's making them? Is that?
That's right. Typically, particularly when the temperature is warmer at night, because night temperature increases actually typically in the summertime. It's much higher actually, maintain high temperature. So that causes high respiration rate. When the respiration rate exceeds photosynthesis for carbohydrate production, so that's when the carbohydrate depletion occurs. So the cool season grass will decline with carbohydrate depletion or carbohydrate starvation under those conditions.
I know you've done some research about syringing bent grass to cool it down. Is that an effective maintenance practice?
Very good question. So syringing is it's kind of it's a simple practice, but it's not that easy answer to maintain bent grass in the summertime. So as we know, syringing is a spray small amount of water on the canopy to keep the canopy cooler. But if you do it only once a day, based on our research, that it may not be as effective. So if you want to do syringing, so you may do multiple times a day, each time, so that you're syringing, about 30 minutes later, you come back to do another round. So syringing can keep the temperature cooler based on the weather and also the time of the day. We found if you do syringing combination with a fan, can cool the canopy much cooler by 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, so you may have to do multiple times a day. So one single time may not be effective.
When you've done this, have you just measured the temperature or have you also measured the turf grass quality response?
Excellent question. So we did both. So we measure the canopy temperature using a thermal imaging camera that can actually cover a large surface area of the turf. So it can give you a really precisely what the canopy temperature is. Also, we rated turf quality. So if in the morning, for example, if it's after syringing, if you do only once a day, like see, for example, 11 o'clock in the morning, so and then you, in the afternoon, you look at the turf quality, is start to show some wilting. If you don't do syringing again, then you will just have lower quality again from the morning to the afternoon. So you have to do syringe again to keep the canopy more actively transpiring to cool the plants itself.
Was that on POA or bent or both?
We did both, creeping bentgrass and POA. So we found multiple syringing a day is more effective than single time for each species.
Well, Bingru, we're in a tropical place now. And in this kind of environment, I've always wondered something. Rice is not a warm season grass. It's a cool season grass. Why, if we go to the agricultural fields down there, why could rice, a C3 cool season grass, grow, but we don't see bent grass or perennial ryegrass or Kentucky bluegrass growing?
Okay, that's a very good question. As you mentioned, the C3 grass, cool season grasses, the turf grasses and rice are all cool season plants, or called C3 plants. Because rice, as we know, that we don't mow the rice. So we let the rice go as tall as it can and also for productive of seed grains. But for turf, even though it's same species, C3 species, but we have to mow it so low. See, for example, rice maybe growing like let's see, 3 feet, but our creepy bentgrass, for example, only mow up to down to 3 millimeters height. So because the mowing remove all the leaves, or most of the leaves, that are available for photosynthesis. So therefore, when we mow it too low, there are not enough carbohydrates to support plant growth. So but rice instead have lots of leaves. Those leaves harvest sunlight to photosynthesize, produce carbohydrates. So therefore, in the heat environment, rice may not have issues with carbohydrate depletion, but cool season turf grasses mowed very low would have this problem.
So to simplify it, it just comes down to carbohydrate balance.
That's right, carbohydrate supply, productivity, or storage.
What were we talking about? We were talking about dynamic growth, how growth of the grass is dynamic, and how I asked you whether it would be better to adjust the fertilizer based on how the grass is growing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to adjust fertilizer application according to the turf performance, particularly the growth rate. So growth rates, you can use mowing clippings to collect the mowing clippings and they determine how fast the turf grows. If the actual growth rate is lower than what the potential growth rate you can monitor, then you don't have to apply as much fertilizer. If the growth rate is lower, so you can apply fertilizer, particularly nitrogen, to stimulate its growth. I think its growth rate varies, it's very dynamic. The nitrogen or any other fertilizer application should also dynamic change in terms of quantity and application frequency, not just a fixed term. Those are frequency.
But you're aware that the way that research tends to get done is it's always a fixed rate. It's not a dynamic fertilizer rate.
That is true. That's easier to collect the data for consistency. But in real world situations, like say on golf courses, that the environment changes constantly, and then the turf management practice is also different.
Watch out for the waves.
Yeah, that's right. So then the dynamic change in the growth rate should be considered into the management program. So the management program should follow how the turf actually responding to what you do and to the environment.
And what are some of the benefits we might see? We talked about a lower nitrogen rate and how you'd cut away less of the leaf and maybe the roots could be better. Is that real? Is that really what we'd expect?
Yeah, as we know that adequate nitrogen is important, but we found in our research and also others found if you overdose nitrogen, the turf vertical growth will be stimulated, but root growth declines, so you get shorter roots. But on the low nitrogen levels, the root growth is promoted. You could maintain the same turf quality or better turf quality, but with increased root growth with less nitrogen.
so you get better root growth. And then if you're cutting away, if you're doing less mowing, cutting away less of the leaf every time, that could help the grass store more carbohydrates.
That's correct. Because if you remove less of the leaves, clippings, and then the leaves remain on the turf, are able to absorbing solar radiation and then producing carbohydrates in photosynthesis.
Wow.
So you have low nitrogen, then you increase carbohydrate storage, increasing root growth actually is beneficial overall to turf grass performance and also the cost of fertilizer.
We're playing this 9-hole course twice, and I've just finished my par on this hole, but I noticed the green was not top dressed when we played it the first time, and it's now been top dressed with sand, and I can still putt on it good. The ball rolled okay because this is a pretty fine sand, but this is something that's disruptive to golfers, and it can be damaging to grass, as the sand in this case, it's in hot weather, and this sand is going to heat up, and it's going to make the surface temperature much higher on this green. And also then this is abrasive. If I walk on it, I'm crushing the sand into the leaves. When the mowers go across it or rollers go across it, it damages the leaves. So sand is essential, but it's important to not overdo it. And you want to really try to make sure to grow the grass as slow as possible in order to minimize the amount of sand that's required. All right, on to the next hole. Let me go ahead and knock this in.
Yeah, let's see. Perfect. Yes. This is the most one of the most difficult hole here.
I can putt pretty good when there's no sand on the greens. In a tropical environment like this, it's pretty close to a July or August heat wave in New Jersey. Do biostimulants help bentgrass or Poa annua in this type of heat?
There are different types of biostimulants, as you know. Some of those biostimulants might be effective when you apply that to prevent or to alleviate heat stress tolerance. For example, like some of the seaweed extracts are enriched with antioxidants, some natural hormones. So those are able to maintain greener turf. So, but application has to be much sooner.
Oh, not in the heat.
Not in the heat. When you see the turf quality decline, the leaves turning yellow or canopy thinning, that's too late. Biostimulants, it doesn't really correct or cure the problem. It's like a preventive measure. So you start to apply biostimulants, like see for example in July, August you have anticipated heat, you apply in May and June. We call priming effects.
Okay.
So our preconditioning with the biostimulants that could be effective to suppress the heat-induced injury, but not really to reverse the problem.
They don't reverse it, but they can prime the plant to be able to tolerate it better.
That's right. It's kind of boost the defense system or immune system of the plants. So the plants are able to endure heat tolerance, heat stress for a longer period of time. So maybe but each application only maybe lasts for 2 weeks or so. So repeated application is very important.
One of the things that I find so interesting is where the lower limit of the transition zone is. Like in Bangkok, bentgrass completely fails on a putting green, but in Atlanta we could have bentgrass on a putting green, or in Shanghai we could have bentgrass on a putting green. What are your insights about where the lower limit of the transition zone is, where cool season grass will just fail and we have to use warm season grass?
Okay, as always, you always ask very challenging questions.
That one has no answer, I think.
To me, I think there's no answer. I think the heat tolerance aspect of cool season grasses, including creeping bentgrass, really not only depending on the temperature and also humidity. If you have a high humidity, a high temperature, your temperature level that the grass tolerates to might be lower. But if you have only high temperature but low humidity, that you may be able to grow creeping bentgrass. at a higher temperature in the environment with low humidity. I think the combination heat stress and humidity are very, very important to consider into the situation where and how the grass can tolerate it.
And what temperature does heat stress start for cool season grasses? Does it start at 21 degrees Celsius? Does it start at 25 degrees Celsius?
So 25 basically is a kind of upper level of optimum temperature range. So in our research, at least, we found at the temperature up to around 30 degrees, like 28 to 30 degrees, you start to see that decline in turf performance. But 35 or higher, definitely is detrimental. So the turf cannot last like a very long month, 2-3 months. Heat stress over that temperature would be very, very detrimental.
Yeah, you mentioned the duration of time, maybe 2 months or 3 months that it can tolerate. And I think if we were going to model this and try to predict what the lower limit was, if we were going to take a global map, make a map of the entire world and try to predict where the lower limit where bent grass can survive, I would think that we would have to look where the duration of time of that heat stress is over some threshold. But I don't know what that threshold is, what the duration of time is. But it's something like 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, and beyond that, like in a tropical environment, we have 12 months of the year that are at this heat stress level, and we know that it doesn't work here.
Yeah, in terms of duration, of course, the longer the duration of heat stress and then cause more problems. So it's very hard to say how long the grass can grow under those high temperature conditions, depending on absolute temperature levels and the duration, again, also the humidity, other factors. So it's really very challenging. I don't know what's really the duration for this specific.
Well, it's so fun to talk with you about this, and neither of us can give a proper answer. Thank you, Bingru. It was so good to learn all about heat stress and how grasses grow in these kind of temperatures.
Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.